This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and worship Him, for He alone deserves our praise and worship. We learned that there were 7 ancient wonders of the world, such as Great Pyramids of Giza, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, Colossus of Rhodes, Lighthouse of Alexandria, and so on. In the course of history, with the exception of the Pyramids of Giza in Egypt, all the other 6 ancient wonders were destroyed and they don't exist anymore today. In other words, the Pyramids of Giza are the only surviving ancient wonders of the world today. I visited the pyramids in 2017 and I was amazed that they were built by human beings. It is believed that the pyramids were built some 4,500 years ago. If the date is correct, Joseph, who later became the Prime Minister of Egypt, must have seen the old glory of the pyramids. This morning, I would like to share a brief sermon entitled Blessed Life of Joseph, based on the story of Joseph recorded in the book of Genesis chapters 39 to 41. I hope and pray that God will speak to us afresh through His holy word as we meditate on it. Background. We learn from the book of Genesis that Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, had 12 sons. Genesis chapter 35 verses 23 to 26. Joseph was one of the 12 sons of Jacob. Of all his sons, Jacob favored Joseph, for which his brothers became jealous of him. As a young man of 17 years, Joseph became a shepherd along with his elder brothers. Genesis 37 verse 2. As his brothers were jealous of him, one day they sold Joseph to the Midianite traders for 20 silver coins. Genesis 37 verse 28. The Midianite traders carried Joseph down to Egypt and sold him to Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Genesis 37 verse 36. With this background in mind, let us read Genesis chapter 39 verses 1 to 5. Now Joseph was taken down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelite who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man. He was in the house of his Egyptian master. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him. He made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. From the time that he made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and in field. Genesis chapter 39, verses 1 to 5. Blessed life of Joseph. This morning, I would like to bring out 3 important lessons for us from the story of Joseph. First, Joseph was a blessing to others. When the Midianite traders brought Joseph down to Egypt, Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard, bought him to be his slave. Even as a slave in foreign land, Joseph kept the faith of his fathers, and the Lord was with him, for which he was successful in everything he did. It is written, when his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to prosper in his hands. So Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him. And he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. Genesis chapter 39 verses 3 and 4. Potiphar, a non-believer, noticed that the Lord was with his slave Joseph and blessing the works of Joseph in his house. Potiphar liked and trusted Joseph so much that he made Joseph overseer of his house. As Joseph took in charge of Potiphar's house, the Lord poured out his blessings on Potiphar's house. It is written, from the time that he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and field. Genesis chapter 39, verse 5. The verse clearly depicts that Joseph has been the channel of God's blessing to the house of his Egyptian master. My dear friends, have you ever asked yourself if the Lord is with you in your life? Is the Lord blessing you in your studies, in your professions, and in your ministries? If you keep your faith in Him, He will prosper the works of your hands and your life. Potiphar noticed that Joseph was different and that the Lord was with Joseph and blessing his work. Do people see that we are genuine Christians and that God works in our lives today? As Christians, have we been sources of blessing to people around us? Have you been the cause of peace and harmony, or the cause of misunderstanding, discord, and fight in the family, in the workplace, in the church, and in the society? If your presence is a blessing to others, thank God. You are doing well. Keep it up. But if your life brings sorrow to the family and causes conflict wherever you are, you need to change before it is too late. Remember, despite all the trauma and disheartening experiences as a slave in foreign land, Joseph kept his faith in God and became a source of blessing to people around him. Let us keep our faith in God and be a blessing to others. Second, Joseph overcame the temptation of immorality. The Bible tells us that Joseph was a handsome and good-looking young man. As Joseph worked in the house of his master Potiphar, the wife of his master began to love Joseph and asked him to lie with her. But Joseph refused her request by saying that he could not do such wicked and sin against God. Joseph said, "He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except yourself, because you are his wife. How then could I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Genesis 39, verse 9. The story goes that Potiphar's wife kept pleading with Joseph, but he didn't yield to her request. But one day, when Joseph went into the house to work, and no one was around, Potiphar's wife caught his garment and asked him to lie with her. Joseph left his garment in her hand and fled and ran out of the house. Joseph was a slave boy in Egypt, living far away from his parents and family members. Even if he had lived an immoral life with his master's wife, no one would have known about it. Nevertheless, Joseph feared God and he didn't give in to the temptation, but overcame it by fleeing from his master's wife. My dear friends, the story of Joseph reminds us that temptation is real for everyone in life. Temptations come to people in different ways at different places. Temptation may come to you from your family, your friends, your colleagues in the workplace, or even from among your church workers. Your friends may expect you or even push you to do injustice using your position in the office or your status in the society. It is very easy to misuse our talents and fall into temptations. Your temptation may not be a temptation of sexual immorality, but it could be also a temptation to do injustice and corruption in the society. What are the temptations that you are encountering today in your life? We may be able to hide from people, but we cannot hide our evil practices from God. Therefore, let us fear God and overcome temptations that come to us in different forms. Third, Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt. The Bible tells us that Joseph was wrongly accused by the wife of his master, and he was put behind the bar. Genesis 39, verse 20. But the Lord was with Joseph, and the Lord blessed him, that he won the favor of the jailer. Once again, the jailer made Joseph in charge of the jail and empowered him to take care of the prisoners. Once again, it is said that the Lord prospered whatever Joseph did in the prison. Meanwhile, Pharaoh had a strange dream, but none of the magicians and wise men in Egypt could give a satisfactory interpretation to his dream. Joseph came out from the prison, and with the guidance of God, he gave a satisfactory interpretation of the king's dream and suggested what to do to save the people from the coming famine. Genesis 41, verses 1 to 36. Pharaoh was pleased with the interpretation of his dream and the suggestions put forward by Joseph. Then and then, Pharaoh proclaimed the prisoner Joseph as the prime minister of Egypt. Pharaoh declared and said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only with regards to the throne will I be greater than you. See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." Genesis 41, verses 39 to 41. Then Pharaoh took out his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, arrayed him with linen garment, and put a gold chain around his neck. Then he made Joseph ride in the chariot of his second in command, and set him over all the land of Egypt. By then Joseph was 30 years of age. Genesis 41, verse 46. In all situations, Joseph was faithful to the Lord, and so he enjoyed the favor of the Lord and people, be it Potiphar, the jailer, or Pharaoh. From a domestic servant and a sexually accused prisoner, God raised Joseph up to become the prime minister of Egypt. My dear brothers and sisters, what is your situation today? You and I may not be physically slaves in others' house, but we could be slaves of many other things. We may not be literally prisoners, but we could be prisoners of alcoholism, immorality, social corruptions, and the list may go on. If we are enslaved to any of this and are living as prisoners under sinful lifestyles, let us know that God can release us from all these prisons. You may be a simple student now, a simple entrepreneur, or maybe from a lowly family background today. If you fear God and the Lord is with you, God can do miracles with your life too. Joseph spent the first 13 years in Egypt as a domestic slave and then as a prisoner in the prison. But the Bible testifies that Joseph was faithful to God in all circumstances, for which he enjoyed the favor of the Lord and of the people. Let us all be faithful to God in all circumstances and ask God to raise us up in His appointed time. My dear brothers and sisters in Christ, we have learned 3 vital lessons from the story of Joseph. First, we have learned that Joseph had been a blessing to people around him. Let our lives be channels of blessings to our family, friends, church, and to our society today. Second, we have also learned that Joseph overcame the temptation of immorality. Whatever our temptations may be, let us overcome it with the power of God. Finally, we learned that God raised Joseph from the prison to the office of Prime Minister in Egypt. Let us be faithful to God and trust in Him, for He can do miracles with our lives as well. May God be gracious to us. Amen.